Hey everyone, it's Desiree, and welcome back for our fourth installment with our Paper Rose Candy Kisses collection. I always want to say Christmas. This collection, for some reason, just makes me think of Christmas. I don't know why, because it's a Valentine theme. But it's great how we can just interchange our pieces, right? All right, so welcome back again, fourth installment, and in this one we're going to focus on side 3 and side 4 of our album, and these are the hinged pages, and we're going to continue to build up our designs, our flips, our flops, all the interaction that we are looking for our album. As always, again, in the beginning, if you're new here, very detailed, showed you cutting, all kinds of different things. We're just now at the stage where everything is cut, but you will see the stickies for the bases, all of the craft pieces, and then always remeasure when you go to put your pattern paper on, and I will continuously repeat that. Okay, so let's get started. And this one here is going to have a few different elements. We have as I undo these, we've got a bottom pocket to a flap. We've got a flap that's going to go down like this. We have, and I will arrange those off to the side here. We have a top flap that will be up here. We have some surprises that are going to be underneath. We're going to use that wonderful mechanism where we have a panel that holds all of it closed, which I think is a great way to really showcase the pattern paper, especially when there's themes to them. And then of course we have our base page as well. Again, when we are working on an odd side of the page, we want to make sure that my tag that says opening is to the right. And when we're on an even page, we want to make sure that it's going to the left. So sticky notes and I are friends. You can certainly write directly on all of your pieces. Many do. I just find that if I did that, I would probably write somewhere where it would be seen. I'm just saying. So yeah, that's just me, my little idiosyncrasy. We all have them, absolutely, and we bond with them. I'm going to take my full panel, my background panel, and I'm going to place that up here. And we're going to start looking at our pieces to say, okay, what needs to be attached to this before we attach our background. I'm going to set my panel aside. I'm going to set my top pocket aside. And I'm also going to set my two hidden pieces and how they're going to interact aside. And what I want to focus on are my two flaps. So we have a top flap and we're going to have a bottom flap. Now, when it comes to the flaps, and again, we realize things as we're going. So here, when it comes to the bottom flap, I need another piece cut for when this comes down like this. Totally forgot about that. For right now, I want to get these adhered. So what I want to do is I'm going to fold on my score lines. This bottom flap piece measures 7.5 by 4.5. That includes the 1/2 inch when we score at 4 along this edge, or you can score at a 1/2 inch. Either way, you just want to make sure you have a 1/2 inch on your page. And we're going to get that adhered right down here. So let me grab my glue. And we will get that in place. I'm going to line it up along the bottom edge and the sides, just so that it's even. Our liquid adhesive allows us and gives us that time to do that. And I cannot stress enough, you don't need to worry if you're a little off or a little crooked. That adds interest to your piece. Just remember that. We're going to do the same thing with our top flap. So I'm going to fold that down. I make sure I burnish each side. Helps it to just get a little bit flatter. And we're going to adhere this up here. Again, adding our glue. You get to hear that wonderful sound. And I'm just going to turn this to the side so that I can line these pieces up. Press down. I'm going to open it up and then burnish that down as well to get that glue going in there. Okay, so this piece here measures 7.5 by 5 inches, and we score at 1/2 inch or at 4.5, whichever you would prefer. Those are our two pieces. I'm going to remove our sticky notes there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach my papers. I'm going to attach my base paper in place, my background. That's going to sit right in here. So I want to get that set in place, because everything else we do is going to be built upon this. Now, if I had more flips coming out the side, we would want to make sure that they are in place as well. Oops. So we're going to get that down. And again, we just make sure that it's well adhered. And what I want to do now is I want to measure this piece, because I need another piece for my pattern paper. We always want to remeasure when we look at those tags, and I do it all the time. I look at that tag, that's the piece that I cut. Then I realize I've got to cut another 3/4 of an inch off on one side. So this is 7.5 by, and I'm measuring from the score line, by 4. So removing 1/4 of an inch, that's 7.25, going from side to side, by 3 3/4, going up and down. And I put those arrows down there when I write out my measurements so that I know in case I'm grabbing something that's directional. So I'm going to look through my pattern paper and I'm going to see if I can find and I think I'm going to go with this piece here, this pretty polka dots, and I'm going to pull in my paper trimmer, and I'm going to cut this at 7 1/4. by 3 3/4. All right, pulling our page back in, I can now put this in place there. You could have also used a solid piece if you wanted to. I'm just going with something a little bit different. Whether you use solid cardstock or the pattern paper, we can decorate the same way as we do. Okay, so now that is in place. So now we have this. And this piece, now this would be the same size. This would be 7 1/4 by 3 3/4 as well. And you can see this one's just a little bit smaller, but that's because I have that pocket coming in front of it. So we can adjust our measurements to save on paper, which is awesome. So it is something that, you know, we can look at ahead. I'll be honest, I always tend to forget. This time, obviously, though, I did not. When I set this up, I'm going to make sure I have my border going around 3 of the sides, not worried about the bottom going along that area. So here our pocket on the bottom flap measures 8 1/2 because we've got 2 1/2-inch scores, one at 1/2 inch, one at 8. So we need that extra inch. So there's that 7 1/2, and it is 2 3/4 high, and we're going to either score at 1/2 inch or 2 1/4 to get that 1/2 inch onto this piece. I'm going to fold in our sides first, and I'm going to burnish both of those. And then I'm going to fold up the bottom. And when I'm doing my pockets, just to, you know, reconfirm, when I'm doing my flips and my pockets, I am using a lighter weight cardstock because we're adding more layers to it, which will give it more stability. So we don't need to use a heavy weight cardstock. So this is just going to get lined up along the bottom as well. And again, I like to fold the sides in first and then the bottom, because then as you're putting your piece in, it won't get caught on anything. It may get caught on this piece here if we fold that up first. Is it absolutely necessary to remember that? No. Just know if you're finding a piece doesn't go in right, that could be one of the reasons. But it's not a law. And remember, in creating our art, there are no rules and laws that we must follow. So I'm going to line this up along the bottom. I'm going to press that down, burnish, just to get that glue down there. And now we're going to add our layering piece right on top of that. Now you can certainly, if you have a circle hand punch, you know, put your notches in. But that's kind of why I like to have my craft border for all of my bases. To me, that shows that this is a break in the pattern, so that must mean something. So the recipient knows that there is a pocket there of some sort. So we have this pocket that flips down. We have this journaling hidden spot there. Now let's put our top pieces in. And I think this is the way that I pulled that off. So we go this way, and then that went like that. Yes. I love that paper. Yes. Get our top section in. We'll flip this down and now get our cover in place. Okay, we have that. Now let's get our pieces for our card, our closing card, our closure panel. This is 5.5 by 5.5. So let's get our, I chose an aqua background for this one. And same thing, just this touch of black coming in, a very thin line of it. Yes, I am using an entire panel so that my pieces will stay flat. Usually, you know, when we make a card, we sometimes, depending upon the paper, especially if it's a specialty paper, we cut out the center because we love it that much. And for card making, that's okay. But for these, you know, we're going to be writing on them. The recipient could be adding something else. I don't want the paper, the paper to concave in on them as they're, you know, working in their album, adding in their memories. So there's always a method to my madness. But again, my madness, if you want to cut the centers out, you certainly can. Absolutely your choice. Now, if you remember, this piece, that 12 by 12, had this in the upper right-hand corner. Then we had the bug down here. Again, just the way that we cut it, we were able to get this as a panel and get the bug as another panel. So it's just another way to look at your papers to see what you can get from them just by cutting them a certain way. And when you look at each of your spreads, for me, I don't do each spread individually. I do all of my cutting for my bases, knowing what I'm going to do there. Then I go back with the pattern paper and start laying that out and building them. And then I go back and put it all together as I'm showing you now, because that'll tell me where my pattern paper is going. That's just the way that I work. There's many different ways. And that's, again, that's the beautiful thing. Okay, so for here, the little bit of interaction that I have, I want to put these together first. These are like little booklets. So first I'm going to put, I did some of the cutouts And I'm going to put this one down. And I'm keeping them true to the size. These, the craft part is cut 3 by 6. So, and scored at 3 inches along the 6-inch line. And you'll see that paper, that my little stickies soon. It was probably on the other one. So these are like little tiny booklets that I have, that I created. I'm going to use, as you can see, my solid cardstock inside these areas here. And I went with an ivory and the aqua. All right, that's one. And now we will do this one. So let's do the inside first. We did this one a little bit different. This one on this side. And here's our sticky here. So 6 inches by 3 inches, and we're scoring at 3. I've referred to these as my inside flips, and you'll see what that means. There we go. I'll put this one there. And you'll see why I flipped this one so that the fold is on this side. I have a method to my madness. Okay, and you can see I chose 2 of the small cut aparts with the storefronts because I thought that went really well with this. So I'm kind of creating those themes to go through. Now I'm going to keep this flap up here because I want this one to be here, and I'm going to get that one set in place. Now I'm going to keep my thumb here because I'm going to put a thin bead of glue on 3 sides. I'm going to create pockets with these. And I'm going to get that centered right in here. And I'm just going to hold that because I'm going down onto the pattern paper. Going to wipe away the excess glue. So now we've got this little pocket there. And now I'm going to open this one and say, okay, this is now going to come down here. Now I'm going to bring it up just a little bit because we've got this mechanism here, but I want it hidden. I don't want people to see it. And I'm going to carefully open this. So I'm going to put this right about here. And we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to keep my thumb here. Just going to put thin line of glue along the edge. And then along this piece as well. Gonna flip that, and we're gonna put this right here. And again, we're just gonna hold that down just a little bit. I don't want to put magnets in these because again, I'm creating pockets. So again, we've got this little tiny pocket going on here, and we're going to let that set. So now we've got these two flips. Okay. Different. So this will come up. Won't know that's there. This will come down. And here is our closure. And that is side 3. Now let's move on. I'm going to clean up just a little bit because that kind of helps me to reset when I do that. When we come back, we are going, and I'm going to look at this. So you can see how that's bumping out. So we've got just a concern there when it comes to what this is doing. What I may have to do, and we can look at that, and we'll look at that when it comes to our embellishment, is putting a magnet in here. So what I would do is, again, when I decorate, get a magnet in here and then have a decoration here. That would be a surprise, and then that would just magnet onto that. And that'll hold it in place as well. Because I can't, unless, no, can't do that either. So we will look at that. It's not a problem. We can adjust anything. So when we come back, we're going to work on side 4. Side 4. We're going to have another door and some more accordions. You can repeat the same elements or similar elements. That is fine. And I kind of, did this. I just have these little secrets that run throughout this. For this one, again, I'm going to look at my pieces. I've made sure, since I'm on an even side of the hinge page, that my opening is to the left, because we always want to do that. Make sure that opening is just very important. I know, I keep stressing it, but you can figure out why, because of the mistakes that I've made. Yes. Okay. So I want to get our craft pieces down, and these are all kinds of accordions. So I'm going to get these out first, and I'm pulling out the papers the way that they are going to sit in the accordion. So I have this one. That's my top flip up. This one here is the bottom. And by pulling them out the same way, that just reminds me this is how they're going to be set into our pieces. Here's our bottom flip out. This is our base panel, but I'm looking at my pieces first to say, okay, what's going to go where? What do I have to put down first? Here is, I'm going to pull that all off. Yes, there's a craft piece there, but there's a reason. So we're going to put that there. And we are going to pull these off. And I accidentally put that there, so that needs, what? Let me get that clipped because I don't want to lose anything. And let's make sure, there she is. I knew I was forgetting something. Again, I just keep everything clipped. For me, it just helps my brain. So, and then here are our doors again. So very similar to one of our previous pages. And we're going to get all of these pieces down before I put my background in. So let's start with our top flip up. These are both the same size. So these are both 6 inches wide by 8.5 inches tall. And each of them we score at 1/2 inch along the 8.5 side and at 4.5. So each panel is 4 inches tall. All right, we're going to set both of these in place just as we have before. We're going to put glue on our tab. And we're going to line it up along the bottom. And I'm just going to eyeball this in the center, because then once we have one set, getting the other one set will be easy. We're going to add glue to this one. I'm just going to turn this just a little bit so that I can get this in. I'm lining up the two pieces. They're overlapping slightly, which is fine. And now I can take this one and push down. Get my bone folder. And again, I also like to use the bone folder just not only to make sure it's adhered, but it releases, it pushes that glue. And then we'll do the same thing on this side. So now we have our top flip up and our bottom flip out. So lots of room going on here. I'm going to remove our little stickies. Now we're going to set our doors. Same way as before, we're going to set these onto the side. We're going to put glue on our 1/2 inch. We're going to line it up on the top and the bottom and the side. Open that up, press down. And sometimes if it's easier, you can just open these up like that. And again, each of these doors, the left and the right, calling them cover flaps, measure 4 1/4 and 7 3/4. And we score at 1/2 inch along the 4 1/4 side. And I just like to get these down next to each other. There we go. And again, if you're off a little bit, it's okay. No one's going to notice. So there we go. We've got our bases in there. So we've got our door. We've got our 2 flip outs. Now let's get our base piece in. So that's going to sit right there. Going to just make sure, yep, you can tell that's the wrong way. And I like to have these base pieces because anything can be done with these as well. The recipient can add some lined papers or other pattern papers in there so that they can journal. Never limit ourselves to our memories. It's space. You know, it's like something that I learned when we write, you know, white space. I was always told white space is your friend when it comes to certain things. There we go. Let's get these decorated while they are here. So I'm going to close those up because we've got something going on for the closure that's just a little bit different. I know this is the one for the bottom. So I'm going to get this glued down. And I know this goes behind that piece, so I'm going to flip this up. I chose red and ivory cardstock for this one, for my solid cardstocks. And then I'm going to put my ivory down here. And then when we push this down, we're going to have the pattern paper in full view. Now, you could have one of your solid cardstocks be in this area. Totally your choice. All right, now let's work on our top accordion. I just like, so when I look at the solid cardstock, those can be considered photo mats or journaling spaces. So I look that if they're a journaling space, you know, kind of hidden, that's kind of what my, you know, thought process is to that. So I'm always thinking about, okay, how would this possibly, you know, be used? Can it be altered? Absolutely. Yes, it can be altered. Because whenever I make one of these for sale or as a gift, I like to give a little bit, you know, a little package with more ephemera pieces that I've made, and they can place them where they want. So that they can have fun decorating as well. But they are always pieces that I've made separately, or, you know, very small pieces of the pattern paper strips so that they can decorate. Now I'm going to go with that one. So again, always look at your papers because sometimes they are directional. but that was my thought process, to have those roses sitting on the side. All right, so now we have those set up. I'm going to pull my backer pieces for each of my doors and get those set in place. We're going to create some interesting things when it comes to our doors or these panels when it comes time for our decorations. And I'm going to grab this one as well. Okay, now let's have, so now we have this, and I like the way that it curves. You could certainly add gussets to these where, okay, you score at a 1/2 inch, score at 3/4 of an inch, and you'll have that 1/4 of an inch so that they'll lay flat. But with the closure that I'm using, it's going to look really cool with it curving. So I'm going to remove our tags there, but I'm going to push this up out of the way. And here are the two panels. So what I want to do, I've got these flaps. And I think what I want to do is get these set onto, before I put these down onto my black cardstock, I want to get these flaps in place. So I'm going to measure this. So it's 7.5. So this is my center point right about here. All right, so this is where I want this. So I'm going to get this glued in place. So I'm going to hold it. I'm going to take this flap, pull her down, and I'm going to put glue on this. And then I'm going to fold that back over, pinch, and hold. Okay. Now for this one, I'm going to do the same thing. Now, these flaps measure 2 by 3.25, and we're scoring at a 1/2 inch. Now for this one, we are going to use some twine or ribbon. All right, so now I'm going to take this, I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to line it up with each other. I'm going to slide my piece in, and I'm going to push it down, and I'm just going to make sure that it's lined up. This way we don't have to measure. And I'm just going to make sure that this is in the same place as the other one. Continually lining them up. And it is now. I'm going to pinch, flip that back, get our glue down in place, and fold that over. So now when I open this and set these down, These are very close to even. Not perfect, but they are close. Okay? So now we can take these, and I'm going to now set this onto the black cardstock. So it's just good as you're walking through to look at where will you tuck, if you've got flip outs, where will you tuck that tab? Does it go above the pattern paper? Does it go below the pattern paper? Because I could have put this around the black cardstock, but that would have been a lot for it to wrap around, to come from here. I know I didn't want to bring it from this edge. That would have been a lot as well. So you can change or move your flaps to different areas. And now I'm using the black cardstock for the top and the inside. So you know that the ephemera is really going to come into play on this one. And now I can add this piece to the right. I'm just going to hold it on this edge just a little bit. And always remember, if your glue should come out, it dries clear. All right, now we're going to do the same thing on this side. It's almost like a rinse and repeat. Let me grab a baby wipe just to clean the top of my glue bottle there. This helps to keep the glue moving. You should always do that once in a while. And I'll try to get some of it out in there. But I do love these bottles. And even the holders. I have a couple holders for my other types of glue that I use. There we go. Just get a little bit more out. Now I am going to turn this upside down just so I can hold that tab flat. Just remember to make sure that we're putting it the right way on our piece. So I'm going to look. It needs to go this way. We're going to get this on our black cardstock. Again, we can shift to make sure she's centered. And now we'll get this onto our flap. Now, I also do things little difficult, you know, sometimes. I like to get the piece together before I start adding any metal findings or anything like that. Because for this one, we are going to add some eyelets. I love metal findings. I just think that it adds so much to your pieces. And that's what we're going to do. I am actually going to pull a ruler in this time. I know. And I'm going to use my ruler where I can find the center. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line this up, and I want one here, and I want one here. And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Again, getting that 0 in the center. And I want one here and here. So if I take this and look, yep, I very much eyeball things as I'm putting things together. It's just what I do. Some people may not like that, and you don't have to. Okay, so just know that you don't have to eyeball things. Now I'm going to line that up here as well. I know I'm a little off on the things, and we're okay. All right, so that's what we're doing. I'm going to grab my hole punch here, and I'm going to punch the holes into our piece. Just going to have that lean against that. And I'm going to find the center of the hole. And we're going to punch. Find the center. Punch. And we're going to do the same thing, of course. I'm just using that jar just to let it lean up against that. Punch. Punch. All right, we're going to set that aside now. We'll get our piece back in there. Matter of fact, no, we're going to remove that. But what I am going to do is I'm going to clip this in just so it doesn't, I don't want these pages to bend. So we're just going to clip. There we go. All right. Now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to get our eyelets in, and I'm going to use my little crocodile here, which I think is actually failing. All right, so I already have this set. Again, we're going to lift, let it sit. I'm going to bring these over here to my right. I always like to pick my piece up so I can see. Squeeze. Here we go. We're going to do the same thing. have glue all over my fingers. I'm going to pick it up to make sure that I'm set in the eyelet, because to me that is key. Squeeze. Eyelets in me, I love eyelets, but we do not get along too well. I'm just saying, we just don't. I always have issues setting my eyelets. All right. And we're going to set this one. So now I need to hold my thing here like that. Make sure that's set. That is not going to feel comfortable. Squeeze. And there we go. Okay. I think we have done it. So now we've got our eyelets in. Do you have to use eyelets? Of course not. You could use the method that we used before for our door. Absolutely. I'm going to just cut a piece of ribbon. This beautiful red ribbon. And I'm going to feed it through. I'm going to come down on this side. And I'm going to come down on this side. There we go. So it almost looks like a corset. You could make it bigger if you wanted to. And I'm just playing with my ribbons so that they lay flat. And again, we're going to go down from the top and pull. And I actually did that one right. And again, this will be able to expand. And now we're just going to tie a bow. You can either have your bow be at the top or be at the bottom, however you want your bow to sit. You can. I am not a bow maker. I'm just really not. I'm just not a bow maker. I don't want to trim that though, because we may be expanding this. As more is added to it, this will be able to grow for the width and for the packing. But this is a great way to have a closure. And yes, they would have to untie this, but it's just something that's interesting, something that's different. They could do something on the sides where it's just a single bow in the center. Again, so many possibilities. But that is our fourth. Oh no. Oh, okay. So the bow is actually on the top. You were all screaming that I was working upside down. Okay, because my heart just collapsed. I'm just saying. I thought I put this in upside down. Oh my. And it can happen. So here is our side 3. We are going to fix this because when we lift this, she kind of just, she wants to pull out just a little bit. We're going to fix that with a magnet. And then we have our side 4. Very dramatic, I think. So I hope you enjoyed these 2 sides for our Candy Kisses by Paper Rose scrapbook album. Please stay tuned for 5 and 6. where we will show those two, and then that'll be video number 5, and video number 6 will show 7 and 8. So I hope to see you there. All the products that I used, of course, will be linked down below. And if you have any questions, please make sure you leave those down below, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Make sure you subscribe, hit that thumbs up, make sure you ring the bell so that when you know the next part of this series is live for you, and enjoy it. But most of all, enjoy the art that you create. Know that it's art, and don't get frustrated. Just enjoy the process. Have fun mixing colors or mixing papers. No matter what it is, just enjoy that process. And most of all, be creative in everything that you do every day. Continue to stay safe and healthy. And until the next video, take care.